Yes, please. I think the guy you were
Why is Switzerland giving up their role?
They were able to be the negotiation center when Europe owned most of the world. Europe will now only be one of 7 superpowers. So they've said that they can no longer provide the attraction to become the negotiation center for these other 6 superpowers the way that they were for Europe when Europe owned all the planet. Basically, the world's changed. Europe only is one of 7 players. Now there's 6 more. Switzerland can't reach out to them. Yes, please.
Well, I'm kind of curious, not being personal, but what are your qualifications?
Oh, thank you, thank you. So, I don't have a background in foreign policy. I don't have a background in international relations. I basically studied this for 6 years, and I have 2 federal copyrights in the book showing that I've started around 2006 through 2009. My background is, I work for the state government. I'm a good employee who works hard. I'm not one of the stereotypes. My role was receiving federal money and then understanding how to break it up to fund all the different state departments. And basically over 10 years, I became familiar with what in state government is a dirty joke. All your state government workers know this joke, and it goes something like this. We pay way more into the national pot than we ever get back. So when you see a bridge collapse here in California, I think the Bay Area had a section of the bridge collapse 2 years ago, 3 years ago, fell down, just collapsed, crushed, killed a guy. A week before that happened, Missouri or Tennessee got $100 million to fix a road that wasn't even that bad. We have our roads falling and killing people. 35 other states have roads that already work well. You see this for 10 years, you talk to everybody in government, it becomes overwhelmingly apparent something's wrong. I spent 6 years looking into it, and by the way, everything that I'm saying is overwhelmingly documented in the book, and I have a special 20-page reference section in the back because I didn't think anybody would believe anything I said. So please, question everything. There's a citation on the page that everything's mentioned. Everything's cited. Yes, please.
Yeah. Do you have any comments or ideas regarding shipping lanes in the world? Like before World War II, England ruled the seas. Since World War II, the United States has provided shipping or safety for shipping lanes throughout the world, and with shipping and trade becoming more international, it's becoming more important, and particularly seeing Japan and China wanting themselves to protect their own shipping lanes rather than relying on the United States to protect the shipping lanes in the world.
I haven't looked into that a whole lot, and it wasn't something I looked into the book, but my personal opinion is that the best thing in the future would be for us to do something like the way that they are pursuing the shipping lanes around the Red Sea, coming around Somalia. You have 13 different nations participating in a joint navy, so that no one gets to say this is our sea lane. Everyone benefits and everybody takes participation and works together. And that manages to keep it open for all commerce and peaceful. Whereas if you look at the relationship with China and Japan, they're sending warships instead of 2 islands that each one has claimed as a way of threatening each other. They're not doing joint Navy patrols, they're sending battleships for intimidation. So I would go for the Red Sea version. You first.
I guess I'm missing a link on this Switzerland idea that, I mean, my concept is that they made their money from banking, international finance, their secrecy laws, which are now being attacked. I guess I'm missing the link where the negotiation status maybe kept them out of wars because they were the negotiating side, so it gave them peace, but it didn't necessarily make them a lot of money. They made their money from something else. And if California becomes the negotiation center for the world, that's great, but I don't see how that makes us rich.
My research is that the banking industry of Switzerland has only been a fraction of their economy, and that the majority of their economy was always related to international relations and diplomacy. Banking is where they had a bad reputation through World War II, and it is always a source of their income. However, banking is only part of the larger economy and part of a larger strategic decision that they made. The Swiss made a decision about 200 years ago that they wanted to become an economy that basically was a nexus point for all of the countries. First they looked at watchmaking, then they moved into gold banking, and then they finally moved into international diplomacy and negotiation. The banking secrecy laws, the privacy laws, the neutrality laws, all came after Switzerland and the Swiss people made this decision to shift their economy to become a world center. So those are all symptoms of a strategic decision earlier.
Wouldn't follow it, but isn't California is a little different, and I mean, Switzerland is a unique nation unto itself. It can make laws for its whole country, and that's what prevails. California, we can make all the laws we want, but we're still part of the national government, and they can overrule us. So, you know, we're saying, well, we're this great peace center out here on the West Coast, and Washington, D.C. says, screw it, we want to go to war. I mean, how do we reconcile our position as a peacekeeper with the national government?
I'm going to take his question and I'll go to you. What I'm proposing in the book is that we would pursue something called subnational sovereignty. Subnational sovereignty is a form of government that 25 nations around the world today have. They're all democracies, they're all stable economies, and they all have great relations with their parent country. And Scotland just became subnationally sovereign in the last 5 years, these last 5 years, and I'm heavily emphasizing that in the book, that we as Californians would study the Scottish model that literally happened like right now. Subnational sovereignty is where the dollar and the military stay intact, but all other policy decisions return to the capital. So immigration, banking, finance, you name it. But your British pound and your military stay intact. Scotland did this about a couple of years ago. It's working great. The economies between England and Scotland have actually grown closer together, even though they've legally become pulled apart. And the Scottish soldiers who have been participating in the British military post-subnational sovereign independence just received a commendation from the Queen of England for their valor in Afghanistan. This system works. We would pursue something like that so that we would have the range of policy freedom that you're getting at to be able to pursue this plan. And again, we would follow the Scottish model or look into it, and again, this is pursued by 25 other countries. And if you look back another century, there's another 25 other countries that have followed this rare but stable form of government, by the way, that's found literally around the world, meaning it's universally applicable. Yes, please, sir.
You talk about countries that have good economies and are able to take care of themselves. You notice the Swiss haven't started any $3 trillion wars.
Right.
Nor have the Brazilians, and I doubt that the Scotch will. So if we're going to become a subnational state out here,
Yeah.
I think we're still going to get dragged into $3 trillion wars. How do you make money off that?
So there's two questions there. One is, where's the money going to come from? First, let me just point that out. Every year, you pay $80 to $120 billion in extra federal taxes you get absolutely nothing for. By the way, the amount of money it takes to run the entire state of California is the exact same amount. So you pay your state taxes to run California, and you pay extra federal taxes equivalent to your state taxes. And you never see anything for that, and this has gone on for 35 years. That's where the money's going to come from. By the way, this is not money for military and Social Security. This is after that's paid for. This extra money goes to pay for roads, schools, bridges, and dams in 35 other states that, according to the federal government, already have all of these things better than California. Type in roads, comma, California, worst of, comma, federal report. There's a federal report looking at all 50 states on everything. On everything. Roads, seaports, dams, levees, bridges, everything. California's the worst. 35 other states rank better than us. But every single year for 30 years, you pay for them to have better infrastructure than you. The second question. Switzerland was a subnational sovereign unit of France when it moved in to become the global negotiation center. So they were neutral enough to be able to make the sale to Europe to gain that economy. We only need that level of differentiation to have the trust of the world to be able to make this move. Yes, sir.
This is good in theory. Is there
Right.
anything mechanical or actual that's taking place along this line?
No, not yet, and that's why I'm here. The book says that basically, the book says that basically, if you get about 20–30% of Californians to ask their government to do a blue ribbon panel. A blue ribbon panel is where the government says, we need to regulate yachts in the harbor. We don't know how to do that. Let's bring all these experts together and make a manual, and then you vote on the manual. You would request the state of California to do a blue ribbon panel on the Scottish model and on the concepts in the book in general. They would make an official report. When the federal government has substantiated what I've said, and you have 20% of the people talking about this, this is now catalyzed into something way beyond anything that we're looking at right now. But right now, it's me trying to get the word out.
One more question.
Yes, please.
You do realize that Scotland, within the last month, is meeting with the Prime Minister of England to become an independent nation.
I'm aware that Alex Salmond, who's the person who pursued subnational sovereignty in Scotland and is meeting with the Prime Minister of England, is a politician, and that what he really wants is the North Sea oil north of Scotland that England has claimed. He asked for that. England said, no way we're giving up one of our richest oil fields. The very next year, we're going for full independence. They want the money. They're not really after independence.
And then the second question, real quick, like, have you factored in the fact that California is one of the largest economic, has one of the largest economies in the world, about 7th or 8th in the world? How does that impact on what you're talking about?
It says that the world already recognizes us and that we already have a market. So if we just announced ourselves as being open for this game of being a world negotiation center, all of the planet already knows who we are and already has a positive opinion of us. So our advertising budget is almost zero. That's what that means. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's give a big hand. Thank you very, very much.